Today is May 30th, 2019. I am Carter Corsello. I'm the historian at the Morris, Illinois American Legion Post 294. I'm here with Elmo Ray Younger, and he'll tell us about that in a moment. And we're at his home, and we're doing the interview. So, Elmo, can you tell me anything about you? Tell me about your name, since I just mentioned that.
Well, actually, my name is Elmo, and since that my wife doesn't like the name Elmo, she named me Ray, Elmo Ray Younger. That's how I happened to get the Ray.
Okay, so you got the Ray with your marriage.
Correct, right.
How about that? Okay, and where were you born?
I was born in Grambling, Louisiana.
Graham, Louisiana. But that's not around here.
No,
we're
it
in
isn't.
Illinois.
That's
You moved up here after what year did you move up here, or how old were you when you moved up here to Morris? Because you're a lifelong Morris resident, so when did you move here? A rough age.
I moved here
In your teens.
well, in fact, what happened was that I came to White's, and then after I got discharged, I come here to live.
Okay, yeah. But you moved up here. You got White's, which is a cafe in town.
That's correct.
They had contacted you and asked you to come up and work, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so then you were roughly what, 18, 17?
I believe 19.
19. And then you came up here into work, and then once you got up here, just started working for them, and what happened?
Well, I just started working with them, and during the meantime, I put in an application to deal with Oldness ammunition plant, and they called me to work, and that was when I terminated my work with White's Cafe.
Right. And then you worked at the ammunition plant in Joliet for a while?
Yeah, I worked at the ammunition plant until I got drafted.
Until you got drafted. Okay, so then you got drafted, and can you tell us a little bit about your draft? I mean, that was in what town?
Yeah, actually I got drafted from the school. They had a draft board up over the Morris Post Office, and I was notified by Shirley Heat that I had been drafted. And a date was set up, and I went to Chicago, and they swore me in and certified me as a potential draftee.
I see. And so then you were able to stay back home for a while, or were you on a bus right away? Or a train?
Yes, what happened was that I told them that I wanted to go back to Louisiana, my home where I was born, and the government provided transportation, provided funds for me to go to Louisiana and enter while I was down there.
I see. So you actually entered back then in Louisiana then?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you entered and you went to training, and where did you go to training, and what service did you join?
Okay, the first military training I got was at Shepherd Field, Texas. And after I finished basic training at Shepherd Field, Texas, we went to Reno Army Air Base.
Reno, okay.
Yes. And of course we were there for I believe 6 or 8 weeks, and then we went to from Reno Army Air Base to Merced, California, where we taught chemical warfare and the various chemicals that's used in warfare.
Because you were in the chemical corps, correct?
I was in the Chemical Lab Operation
Yeah.
Company, and that was the outfit that I stayed in until I got my discharge in '47.
Okay. And then what? So because I didn't state it at the very beginning, but how old are you right now, Elmo?
I'm 70.
No. 90.
77. 97.
97.
No.
Yeah. 97 years old.
Yes.
And that's pretty amazing that you can remember the locations, and I believe you on that because we've talked many times over the years.
Yes.
Okay. So that's pretty good. Okay. And then you entered, and you were in an all-black unit.
That is correct. I was in an all-black
Can you
unit.
tell me anything about the all-black unit? Like, how were the other guys, and were they good people? Were they from all over the country, or were they from certain regions? We've never talked, so I mean, just
yes.
anything. You
The
want to talk
outfit
about.
that I was in it was a small outfit. It only included about 75 men and officers. It was a chemical lab operation outfit.
I had just asked about what was the makeup of your unit. Were all the fellow guys, your fellow guys in the unit, were they from one location in the country, or were they all from a mix of the country, or were they all poor? Were they educated, or was it just what was there a particular slant, or what did you think?
The individuals that was in my company, it composed of guys from practically every state in the Union, from California to New York.
Okay. So then you did your training. You were back in California, and then were you guys all ready to go? Like you wanted to go fight them? You wanted to go fight the Germans or the Japanese, or?
Well, actually, after we finished with chemical warfare, then we got a notification that there were outfits being needed overseas, and we got a notice to go to Camp Kidman, New Jersey, until we received orders to go overseas.
Okay. So then you knew you were going to the European theater.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So then, would you guys fly? They didn't fly back then, did they?
No, actually, what happened was that they had a troop ship that was leaving New York, and they put us on the troop ship, and we went over by ship.
Okay. Was that comfortable? Was it a luxury liner?
No. I'll shut up. I'll stay out of it.
That wasn't a luxury liner, was it?
No, it was not a luxury liner.
No. Was it pretty cramped?
It was pretty cramped, and then it was rough.
Did you get sick?
Yes.
You did.
Oh, I got very sick.
Yeah. Well, my dad said it wasn't fun either. So.
No, that's correct.
Okay, then you got to England, and then you got on firm land. Tell me a little bit about.
Well, actually, what happened
where'd you guys
was
go
that
first?
the first place we went to was Glasgow, Scotland,
Okay.
and of course we got off the ship there, and we spent the night there, and they served us a very good meal. And the next day, we were shipped out to Northern Ireland.
Okay. Then you were there, you ate, and then you guys did you do training there, or did they move you on to the next location?
Actually, we stayed in Northern Ireland for about 7 or 8 months.
Okay.
And we went into, we had a storage unit that handled gas masks, gloves, and impregnated clothing. And we stored that, so if there were some units that needed any of that equipment, like gas masks, impregnated clothing, and so forth. We supplied them with it.
Okay. And then, so then after 8 months now, so you get, that's 30 now. What year are we at now? About 1942 or? Did you guys know about the D-Day invasion? Getting ready for it?
43, yes. Yeah, we knew about that.
Yeah. And were you guys scheduled to be on with that, or were you part of it?
No, we was not part of the D-Day invasion.
But you knew it was going to occur.
That is correct. We knew it was where it was going to happen, and they notified my outfit because we handled incendiary bombs, and we kept the incendiary bombs in storage, and my outfit supplied soldiers to take the bombs up out to the air base and attach them to the planes.
I see. Wow. So you guys were attaching bombs to planes. Okay.
Yes.
And then how long after D-Day did you guys get orders to go to move forward from there? And where did you go?
After that, we went to England.
Okay.
And of course, we stayed in England for, I believe, about 6 or 7 months, and from there, well, we went to Dijon, France.
Okay. And tell me about France. Was it a different world than the United States?
Well, it was
I
different.
didn't even ask you about Ireland. How about all of Europe? Was it different?
Yes, in fact, it was altogether different. I think the country that we enjoyed the most was France, which was totally non-discriminatory. We had a few problems when we were in Ireland and England with some of the American soldiers, but after that we got along very good.
Oh, so by the time you were in France, even the other troops, U.S. troops, were treating you guys better.
Oh yes, definitely, no doubt about it. Yes.
Maybe because they knew that you were with them all along. I don't know. Is that why do you think that? Why do you think they finally treated you better in France than they did in England and Scotland?
Well, actually, what happened was that they found out that most of the outfits at that particular time was becoming integrated. Prior to that, why we had two different armies. We had the Black Army and we had a White Army. And of course, by the time we had gotten to England and France, they decided they would integrate the forces, and there would be no more two armies. There'd be one integrated outfit that fought for America.
So by the time you left the service, were you in an integrated unit, or was it still really a black unit?
It was still a black unit, but if anyone wanted to get a transfer to a different unit, they could do so. Prior to that, you could not.
Oh, I see. And what how did you feel about all that change?
Well, it was a little shocking and surprising.
And how did your fellow soldiers feel about it?
Well, they were elated,
Okay.
very happy about that. There would be all soldiers would be treated likewise,
Yeah.
black and white.
So when you were in France, what did you guys do there? And is that the only place you saw in Europe, or is that it?
France was the last country that we were in.
Okay.
after leaving Ireland for being stationed there for 7 or 8 months, and then we went to England, and we were there for about 5 months, and after that, we went to France. I think one reason why they decided to send us to France was that they were determined if we were going to go to the Pacific or not. And it was a place that we could stay until we got orders from headquarters of whether we were going to the Pacific or whether we were going to be shipped back to America.
So there was a potential that you guys were going to pick up the unit and go to the Pacific Theater.
That is correct, yes.
Oh wow! And then, but that didn't happen.
No, that did not happen.
And you got orders to go back, or you?
Yes, what happened was that we got orders to remain where we were until we got notification that we would be going to the States, going to America.
Yeah. Just you had mentioned that it was a black unit, but your officers were white, correct?
Yes.
And did they treat you guys well?
They treated us quite well, very well.
And did the guys treat them well too?
Yes, they did.
Yeah. And then and you stayed as a unit all the way there and all the way back?
That's correct,
for the most
yes. Correct.
Wow. And then the highest rank that you attained?
It was a technical sergeant.
Technical sergeant. So you were in charge of a few guys.
Yes, I was in charge of the chemical section in the company.
Okay. And what were some of your responsibilities?
Some of my responsibility was to inspect, to make sure that all of the chemical warfare material that was stored kept intact, and we had to have a certain percent of it on hand at all times, and had to see that we had a supply of impregnated clothing and gloves and equipment ready to be shipped out in a notice.
Okay. So of your time in the military, what was the hardest part? The one thing that you wouldn't want to do again, or was just hard?
It was, the basic training was hard because
Basic training? So the basic training was hard?
basic training was hard, but we finally survived and got through it all right.
Yeah. So if that was the hardest, what was the time that you had the most fun while you were in the service? Is there any one thing that jumps out, like, boy, that was a great time and we'll remember that forever?
I think the most fun that we had was during the time that we were in France, when we got notice from headquarters that we would not be would not be going to the South Pacific. They notified us that orders had been changed, and that we would go directly from France to the United States.
Yeah. Did you like the food in the military?
Some of the food was very, very good, and some was not, because there were occasions when we were given horse meat, and of course that wasn't very good.
And did you have leave when you were overseas? Were you able to let your hair down a little bit, or did they have a club on post, or were you able to go outside of the post?
Well, actually, we had very good treatment. We had some very good officers. And of course, every night, why the soldiers that would like to go into town and to mingle with the Irish and English and the French girls, why we could do so.
Wow, that's great. Did a lot of the guys attend church during all this time?
Yes, they allowed the guys to go to church. In fact, what happened was that during the time that we were in Ireland, there was a church that we went to, and we had a quartet within our group that most of the guys that sing in the quartet came from Chicago, and some of them was associated with singing groups. And because of that, the Irish would like for us to come to their church. We went to that church, and from time to time, our quartet would get up before the audience and sing for them.
Were you part of that quartet?
Yes.
Wow.
And I enjoyed that very much.
Now, how long did you sing for? Did you sing for years afterwards, or you always got to sing? Or was that the first time you were singing in a group?
That was the first time I would sing in a group.
That leads me to the next question: is that did you have good friends, like really best friends that you remembered that you kept in contact with, or this is before the internet? Did you mention that they were from Chicago? So did you see those guys back when you moved back here?
Well, actually, after we came to the States and we got out of discharge, there were people that I was associated with in the company that I visited in Chicago, Detroit, San Francisco, and New York. So I had a chance to visit some of those guys. And also my friend in Charleston, South Carolina, who was the first sergeant. And he was very well versed, and he was a college graduate. In fact, he was in college when he got drafted. And because of that, I think that was one reason why that he was promoted or elevated to first sergeant in the company, is because of his advanced knowledge of things that was going on with the Army.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. So you're out. So you said in the data preparing for this, you said that you were in the service. What years were you in the service again for? 1942 to
1942 to 1947.
1942 to 47. That's 5 years. All right, and so after that 5 years, you're done.
That's correct. Finish.
And then now you're back to the real world. Now what are you gonna do? Where did you go?
Actually, what happened was that I came back to the state of Illinois, and during the time that I arrived in Illinois, I had to find employment, and I put in an application. And I got called to go to work at the Elwood Ordnance Ammunition Plant in Joliet, Illinois.
Okay, so then you're going to go back to work at the ammunition plant where you started before the war. You were there before the war. Did you go there after the war? Did you work there?
After the war, I put in an application. The U.S. Steel Corporation.
Okay.
And I had to work for U.S. Steel Corporation. I worked for them for 12 years.
12 years. Did you think that your time in service, did that help you for How did that impact the rest of your life, your time in service? Or did it not really have much effect?
To be dependable, reliable, and trustworthy was one of the 3 or 4 things that I was taught that in order to do a job, you must do a good job. No matter what it is, make sure that it's correct and it's good.
Yeah. And you lived by that then the rest of your life?
Yes, I lived by that for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And so then after you worked at the steel company, then did you have another job after that? And
Yeah, I worked for the steel company, and after 10 or 12 years, the steel mill closed. And when the steel mill closed, I got a call from one of the attorneys in town that they had put up a camp 5 miles east of Morris, and they had juveniles there, and they needed workers there. And I went out for an interview by the camp director, and the camp director interviewed me in the morning and said, "You come to work this afternoon from this afternoon."
yeah, so this was a juvenile detention.
Juvenile detention facility
Right.
that was run by the state of Illinois. At that time, the state of Illinois had 8 or 10 facilities, and 5 or 6 of them were forester camp facilities.
And then what was your position there?
My position there was at the first job that I had was a youth supervisor, and from that they sent me to Springfield to take a test, and I passed the test, and I became a youth counselor.
Okay. And so then you worked with these boys for how many years?
I worked for them for 29 years.
29 years. And then you'd bring them into town to
Yes,
try to
actually,
to give them counseling? Or?
actually, what happened was that at that time I became the bus driver for the facility, and on Sunday, why we would bring the boys in the church on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did your military training help you with managing them?
Oh, definitely, no doubt about it. In fact, it was it was an asset in working with those boys.
And then you had gotten married after you got back, correct? Did you meet your wife before you left, or is that?
I met her before I went in service, and we didn't get married until after I returned home.
Okay, and you got married what year?
'47.
47. So
Yes.
right. So sometime after you got back, you got married, and then how many kids did you have?
3.
3.
Yeah, I had 2 girls and a boy.
2 girls and a boy. And then and your wife, what was her occupation?
She was a nurse.
She was a nurse in town. Did you do anything? Did you join any civic organizations or military fraternity organizations in town
No, I did not.
or nationally?
I joined the American Legion, VFW, and Disabled American Veterans, the American Legion, and the VFW,
Yeah,
Veteran of
VFW.
Foreign War. I joined 3 organizations, became life member of all 3 of them.
That's right. And then with the DAV, what did you do with them? You advanced a little. You advanced.
Yeah, I became the state commander of the Disabled American Veterans.
for the state of Illinois.
Yes, for the state of Illinois.
And how many years did you have to do
That was just on 2 years.
a 2-year term? Okay. And approximately what year was that? That's okay. It was a couple years ago, but it wasn't too far back.
That's correct, wasn't too far back.
Yeah. Did you have any reunions with your unit, like from the unit that you were in the service with, or no?
No,
No. So no reunions.
no.
All right. And then through all your time with your military service, is there anything that you, and just being a veteran, and also in Morris, you got elected to a position, did you?
That is correct. Actually, what happened was this. I ran for the Morris City Council and served 12 years as an alderman. Served on the Morris City Council, and I was a precinct committeeman for 32 years.
Wow. 32 years as an alderman.
No,
A precinct guy.
12 years as an alderman.
12 years as an alderman, and then as a precinct guy.
As a precinct committeeman, I was for 32 years.
Yeah. And because I know, but the camera doesn't know, what's the ethnic makeup of this town that you live in?
Well, actually, when I first came to Morris, the family that I married into was the only black family in town at that time.
Wow.
But of course now it has changed. It's fully integrated. There are quite a few changes that were made. It's a very large. They have a large percent of blacks throughout the city of Morris at the present time.
Yeah. Tell me the difference when you moved here between Louisiana and moving to Morris, back when you were younger.
Well, actually, when I was younger, what happened was that I lived in an all black community, and of course my father at that particular time we was farmers, and we had 300 practically 300 acres of farmland, and I grew up as a farm boy, and we grew beans, corn, cotton, peanuts, sugarcane, Irish and sweet potatoes, and things of that sort on the farm.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 12.
And so you were you were one of 12 kids, right?
I'm one of 12 kids.
And how many sisters and brothers again? I'm not sure if we. 11 sisters, or do you have brothers?
Seven boys and 5 girls.
7 boys and 5 girls. Wow. So then it was okay for you to go to the north and work.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, in fact, they were elated. They was tickled to death that I could go north and find employment.
Right. And then how was the trip up?
Well, I had a very good trip up. That was one of the things that I learned about desegregation and so forth, because see, in my hometown, there was no segregation of any kind, simply because the community that I lived in was all black, and the chief of police, the policeman, and everybody in it were black, and we just never had any real problems until when I got my notification to come to the state of Illinois to work for White's Cafe. I was told on the bus coming up, the bus driver said, "We have crossed over the Mason-Dixon line now," and he said, "You can come up front," because prior to that, all blacks that rode transportation were segregated. They sat in the back of the bus, and that was the first inkling I ever got that blacks had to sit in the back of the bus until they crossed the Mason-Dixon line in the state of Missouri.
Wow. I guess that was you felt pretty good that you were going to the north then.
That is correct. Well, I felt elated that I was just tickled to death. I found out that I was going north and there would be no more deep segregation.
Deep segregation. But you still experienced some prejudice over your lifetime, even though you're.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Is there anything you want to say about that? I mean, we're almost done with the interview. You want to say anything about that, or actually anything that we've covered? If you want to add to it, is there anything you'd like to add about your experience as a veteran, or your experience in the war, your experience afterwards, what it taught you? Do you have any words of wisdom to future generations?
Of course, I think one of the things I would like to say is that what taught me was that no matter what job you have or what assignment you have, do the best you can, do it correctly. And I was fortunate to be one of those individuals that were never arrested, never gotten into any trouble of any kind. And of course, I think that I would like to say that one of the assets for an individual is that always be in control of yourself. I was fortunate to this extent that I never got enough alcohol in my system to get drunk. Never have. And even to this day, I have never been fully drunk. From time to time, I would have a few drinks, but that's for social drinks. But I was told when I went in service that in order to be in control of all of your commands, you cannot have it mixed with alcohol. And that was one of the things that taught me a lesson, and that one of the things that I learned from is being in control at all times. And if you want to be in control, lay off of the liquor.
Great. That's good advice, I guess. All right. Well, Elmo, thank you for the interview. I think we'll wrap it up here, and then we'll come back and finish some of the paperwork.
Okay.
And then hopefully we have enough. I think we do.
Well, I hope so.
All right.
If not, well, we can come up with some. I'll look up some of those dates when.
Yeah, we'll need some of those dates for the end.
Yeah.
All right. That's it, Luke.
Thank you.